September 1812. The war thus far. On September the 1st, 1812, Major General Sir Isaac Brock is in York, soon to be on his way to first Kingston and then Fort George on the Niagara River. Always ready for offensive action, he finds himself stymied by the armistice concluded by his boss, Sir George Prevost, and his American counterpart, Major General Henry Dearborn. The armistice prohibits either side from attacking the other, but Brock suspects the Americans are using this ceasefire to build up their defenses and resources. And he's right. As for the disgraced William Hull, September 1st sees him in captivity, on his way to eventual imprisonment in the fortress of Quebec. The armistice is repudiated by President James Madison and Secretary of War William Eustis and will expire on September the 4th. On September 3rd, a small band of Shawnee, Delaware, and Potawatomi warriors attacked the hamlet of Pigeon Roost, named for the myriad passenger pigeons that nested in the area. The hamlet of Pigeon Roost, near present-day Scottsburg and Henryville, Indiana. 24 settlers, mainly children, are massacred, with 2 children kidnapped. Only 4 native warriors are killed. This attack appears to have been related to an attack on Fort Harrison, near present-day Terre Haute, Indiana, and the siege of Fort Wayne. Fort Madison, situated several miles north of the current city of Fort Madison, Iowa, had been under almost continuous attack by the Sauk, Fox, Winnebago, and Potawatomi warriors prior to the outbreak of the War of 1812. September 5th saw the beginning of a prolonged siege, which featured among its participants the famous Chief Black Hawk, who claimed at one point to have shot down the fort's flag. Kept at bay by musket and cannon fire by the fort's 50 defenders, the natives withdraw on September the 8th. According to Wikipedia, the action at Fort Madison was the only War of 1812 battle to take place west of the Mississippi. On the night of September the 4th/5th, Fort Harrison is besieged by a force of up to 600 Potawatomi, Way, Winnebago, Kickapoo, and Shawnee warriors. In command of the fort is future American President Zachary Taylor, with only 50 men under his command, half of them in sickbay. Early on, the warriors set fire to the section of the fort where the troops have stored their most essential staple, whiskey, which causes a massive explosion that destroys a 20-foot section of the fort's palisade. Now that's whiskey. Despite the destruction wrought by the fire, it helps the defenders as it lights up the attacking warriors, making them clear targets. When news of the siege reaches nearby Vincennes, some 60 miles away, a relief column of 1,000 men, including regulars from the 7th Infantry Regiment, is sent to the rescue. They will relieve the fort on September the 12th. The successful defense of Fort Harrison came to be seen as one of the first American victories of the war. A supply wagon following the relief column was attacked on September 13th in an area known as the Narrows, near present-day Fairbanks, Indiana, by a party of Potawatomi warriors. When the attack began, the horses bolted, and the warriors gave chase, allowing 2 men, John Black, wagoner, and Private Edward Purdue, to escape and make their way back to base at Fort Knox, which was near Vincennes, and which shouldn't be confused with the Fort Knox attacked by Goldfinger. However, the melee cost the Americans a wagon load of supplies, plus 11 dead, while the Potawatomi lost several warriors. A second supply column, unaware of the fate of the first, was attacked by the same warriors at the same spot on September the 15th. The Americans fled, abandoning the supply wagons, which may have saved them, but still 7 soldiers were killed, while another was badly wounded. Also on September 5th began the siege of Fort Wayne, when about 500 Potawatomi and Miami warriors, under Chiefs Winnemac and 5 Medals, and supported by British troops, attacked the fort, which is situated at present-day Fort Wayne. The garrison itself was only defended by 70 soldiers and civilians under Captain James Ray, who was a heavy drinker and, according to Wikipedia, retreated to his quarters. Command then devolved onto Indian agent Benjamin Stickney and Lieutenants Daniel Curtis and Philip Ostrander. The native warriors made several attacks on the fort, and Chief Winnemac even attempted to assassinate Agent Stickney as they awaited the arrival of British troops and light artillery from the Maumee River. In fact, rumor had it that 400 warriors under Tecumseh and 140 British regulars were marching to join the attack. An American relief expedition was quickly organized under William Henry Harrison, who had been appointed Major General of the Kentucky Militia. Harrison's force, which will number some 2,200 men, will arrive on September 12th, only to find that the enemy had departed. Well, let's shift our scene now to Upper Canada. In his book, The Call to Arms, the 1812 invasion of Upper Canada, author Richard Feltow describes a September 16th skirmish. Warren here. I meant, of course, skirmish. Skirmish. I had not encountered in any other source. He calls it the Battle of Matilda, which was the name of a nearby community. This action occurs when a British convoy of 33 boats traveling down the St. Lawrence River and bound for Kingston with supplies and passengers, which included the dependents of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, is attacked by American troops which had taken possession of Toussaint Island. Toussaint Island, pardon my French pronunciation, Toussaint Island, near present-day Cardinal, Ontario. The British land on Presqu'Île Island, which is so close to Toussaint Island, the American troops can fire upon them. But when the Americans attempt to storm the island, they are driven off, losing one boat which floats away downstream. Some 300 Canadian militia quickly join the fray, and the Americans are compelled to retreat to their own side of the St. Lawrence. Feltow is unable to provide exact casualty figures for this engagement. Interestingly, the Wikipedia article on the Battle of Matilda paints a somewhat different picture of the encounter. Find a link to it in the description. On September 21st, the Americans once again invaded Canada, when a force of 110 regulars and militia under Captain Benjamin Forsyth left Ogdensburg, New York, by boat, departing on the 18th and arriving at their destination, Gananoque, Upper Canada, on the 21st. Gananoque was the main base of the Provincial Marine, and the main purpose of the raid, for it was a raid, not invasion, was the capture of ammunition and stores badly needed by the Americans. The raiders landed 2 miles west of Gananoque and marched on the town, where they encountered a defense force of around 100 members of the 2nd Regiment Leeds Militia under the command of Colonel Joel Stone and Lieutenant Levi Soper, S-O-P-E-R, Soper. After a short engagement, the militia were driven from the field, and the Americans entered the town, where they captured 3,000 rounds of ammunition and 41 muskets, as well as ransacking the local storehouse and destroying 150 barrels of provisions, before heading back to their boats and heading for home. In fact, they were gone in 30 minutes. The Americans suffered 1 dead and 10 wounded, while local casualties were 8 killed, 8 taken prisoner, and a number of wounded, including Colonel Stone's wife, who was shot in the hip. And to add insult to injury, the Americans also destroyed Stone's house. Stone himself was away at the time of the raid, escorting a convoy to nearby Kingston. He will die of old age in Gananoque in 1833, whilst Captain Forsyth will die in action at Odelstown in June 1814. Meanwhile, down on the Niagara frontier, there is trouble in paradise. Isaac Brock is chomping at the bit to go on the offensive, but his American counterpart, Stephen Van Rensselaer, commander since July 13th of the Army of the Center, lives in a state of alarm that his British counterpart will seize the initiative and attack. Even the arrival of 1,600 American regulars under Brigadier General Alexander Smythe only compounds Van Rensselaer's worries, as Smith refuses to obey any of his orders and even to meet with his commanding officer. But following the debacle at Detroit, the Madison administration wants an offensive. So stay tuned. October should be an interesting month. If this is your first visit to 1812 channel, my name is Warren, and I'm your host. I'm not a historian, nor am I an expert on the War of 1812. Instead, I'm a student wishing to learn more about the conflict. Each month for the roughly 3 years of the war, I will outline the major events. I will also review a book about the war. Did I miss anything? Any errors? Then let me know in the comments below. And when the barrage lifts, cheers. Yeah, I think my voice made it okay. Just barely. Just. Pictures used in today's video, which shows various Ontario or Upper Canada scenes, are courtesy of Pix Here. That's PX Here, while the music was the gloomy and somber Morning Song by that wonderful patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod. Thank you for listening.